Hello students, today we are going to continue our chapter number 7, that is Introduction to Flash. So in previous video we have discussed about the different components of the Flash. So let us continue our chapter coming to the next topic, that is timeline. Okay. So what is a timeline? The timeline represents a simple mode of visualization. It consists of two parts, that is the frames that are limited by vertical lines, that is forming rectangle. The number of frames that allow us to know the assigned number of each frame, its duration, and when it will appear in the movie. Moreover, there are some tools on the bottom to work with onion paper, and its information about the number of current frame, that is 1 in the image, the frame speed, that is 12.0 in the image, and the time of the movie, that is 0.0 in the image. On the definition level, the timeline represents the succession of frames in the time. The Flash movie will not be only the frames that appear on the timeline one after another in order established by the same timeline. Okay. So here we'll be discussing about what is timeline, that is we have seen in the Flash component, that is in the top ribbon. Okay. So what does timeline represent? It represents a simple mode of visualization. That means it will represent the mode of visualization where we can see about the information about in what frame which we are working, what is the frame speed, and what is the time of the movie. So we will be dealing with the frames, the speed, and the time of the movie. It is having two parts in it. First, the parts that are limited by vertical lines. That means we have seen in the previous video about how this timeline is represented in the form of vertical lines. These vertical lines are limited to the frames. That means that vertical lines will be representing the frame. The number of frames that allow us to know the assigned number of each frame, its duration, and when it will appear in the movie. Now in this we can see the number of frames, that means how many number of frames which we have added in the movie will be displayed in this timeline, and this timeline will be having that frames only which are added in the movie. Okay, and in the last it will show the duration and when it will appear in the movie. That means at what time the particular frame will appear in the movie, that will be displayed in this timeline. Moreover, there are some tools on the bottom to work with onion paper. So this onion paper is a part of this Flash tool, but it is not required for us in this session. Okay, so just remember there is another tool in the bottom which is known as onion paper, and its information about the number of current frame. Here it will be displaying about the number of current frame, that is one frame in the image, and the frame speed, that is the frame at what speed that frame will work, that is 12.0 in the particular image, and the time of the movie, that is 0.0 in the image. Now in definition level, how we can define this timeline? The timeline represents a succession of frames in the time. That means at what time the particular frame will appear. Okay, that means succession of frames in the time. The Flash movie will not be only the frames that appear on the timeline one after another in order established by the same timeline. Okay, so this is what is known as timeline. So let us see about what and where it is located in the Flash. So see this video and understand where the timeline is located in your Flash. Okay, so this is, here you can see the different layers which we have seen over here. Okay, so in the left hand side, what is this is the part of layer. Okay, so what are the different layers which we have added will be displayed over here, and here you can see 5, 10, 15, 20. So this is nothing but your seconds, that is duration. Okay, so let us come to the next part. So now layers. Okay, so in previous one we have discussed about the timeline, that is where the different things are being displayed. So now we'll be discussing about the layers. A layer could be defined as one independent movie of only one level. That is to say, one layer contains its own timeline, that is with endless frames. The objects that are at one layer contains its own timeline, share a frame, and due to this fact they can get mixed up among themselves. The use of many layers gives place to a good ordered movie and of easy use. For example, it is convenient to fix the sounds at one independent layer called sound. So what is this layer? Layer means whenever you are working on a particular picture or a movie, a small movie, then you can add different layers to your movie. That means in the first, for example, in the first layer you are adding some sounds. In the second layer you are adding some pictures on that, and in the next layer you are adding some different text, and at last what you are doing is you are mixing all these three layers and finalizing your movie. So what is the purpose of this layer? The purpose of this layer is that you can edit any part of the layer individually. That means when you are working with sounds, then you can choose your sounds layer and then you can work on that. That is, you can work on that independently. So this layer allows you to work on independent layers, and when you're working on independent layers, then all the things do not get mixed up. Okay, so with the help of these layers it works independently and smoothly. Okay, so a layer could be defined as one independent movie of only one level. That means a particular layer will be one independent part of your movie. One layer contains its own timeline. That means when you are working and when you have added different layers to your movie, for example there are 5 layers. These 5 layers will be having their own timeline, and this timeline will be endless, that is with endless frames. You can add as number of frames as many you want in a particular layer. Okay, so this is the part of layer. The objects that are at one layer contains its own timeline. That means the objects that are at one layer, for example, you are working on sounds and you are having some sound in your that sounds layer. Okay, then it contains its own timeline, share a frame. Okay, that means that sound will be having its own timeline, and that sound will be sharing the frame with the other part. Okay, so this is what is the purpose of your layer. The use of many layers gives place to a good ordered movie and of easy use. That means as many number of layers you are using in your movie, that much clear will the movie will be. That means if you are using 4 layers in your first movie and that is not good, that means your movie will not be prepared good. And in that place, if you are using 8 layers, that is in detail you are putting every part of your layer, then your movie will be good. Okay, so for example, it is convenient to fix the sounds at one independent layer called sounds. So as I've told in the earlier points, that if you want to edit any part of the layer, then you can choose any layer independently and work on that. So whenever you are working with layers, then it will not disturb your whole part of the movie, because you are selecting an independent part of your layer, because layer is an independent part. Okay, so when it is independent, then you can choose any of the layer whichever you want to work. And when you're working with independent part of the layers, then your movie will not be affected. Okay, only the part of the layer which you are working, that will be changed and matched according to your movie. So let us see how these layers will be working. Okay, so here you can see this is the layer. This is the first layer which we are working in the picture. Okay, so we are working here with picture. So here you can see you can work in the layer differently. Okay, so as you have seen in the left hand side in the corner, we are having this layer part. Okay, you can see over here. So this is the part of layer, and the place where we were working, that is the white rectangle box, sorry, square box. So this is known as the working area. Okay, so this is known as a working area where we can add the different layers of your movie. So this we are working in the first layer. If you want to add different layer, then you can just go to the layer part and select next layer, that is layer number 2. So this is just a rough drawing where we are working in this first layer. Okay, okay, so this is what was about here. layer. So we'll be going to discuss about rest of the topics in the next class. Till then, thank you.